right, so today let's talk about another form of protection from the hoodoo practice, red brick dust. Now, hoodoo, of course, is a type of magic that was developed in the New Orleans, however you pronounce it, region of the United States. So most of you, quite a few of you know about red brick dust. It is probably not something new for many of you, but for some it would be. And that is a very simple form of protection magic, and it is common and powerful system and ward in the hoodoo practice. So red brick dust, there is a rule that it must be made from a red brick of an existing or a formerly standing structure. So a building that used to be in a particular place that had quite a history. And the bricks that you get from there, then you can grind down into a dust. And one of the reasons it has to be from an existing or a formerly standing structure rather than just a brick that you can buy from a hardware store is because it gains much of its power from the memory of being part of a boundary. Okay, because it's protection magic through forming a boundary around something. And a structure is already, if it's made of brick, old brick houses or buildings, the walls are boundaries, right? Or the fences or gates, they are boundaries. Okay, so what you do, of course, is once you have this brick powder, you can grind it down, use a hammer, whatever way to turn it into dust, is you make a solid line of this powder across your main threshold, which means your doors or other means of entrance into your house, like windows, windowsills, verandas, porches, whatever it may be. Okay, so you make a solid line of this dust across your main threshold and other door sills, like I just mentioned. It can also be placed, like I just stated before, across windowsills, although it can be pretty messy, especially if you live in a very windy area. So you're going to have to make the call on that one. You should place it across the front and back steps and the beginnings of the walkway and driveway, if you have it, to your home. Now, afterwards, it can feel as if your home is surrounded by a solid brick wall, because that's the whole point. Kind of astrally, that's what you're going to build. But you should be feeling that if you've put a sufficient amount of it around, like in the places that I just stated. Now, because it is dust, the wind is going to blow it around, and also on rainy days it will wash away. So this is where it's important to periodically replace it and reinforce it again with new red brick dust. Now let's have a look at how to make red brick dust. Okay, so to make red brick dust, you need to gather some red bricks. The older bricks you can find, the better. But once again, they have to have come from a structure, either one that is still standing or one that used to. And the bricks used to form part of that building. The other thing is, of course, the older, the better, is because older bricks will crumble better due to the natural aging process that they've been through. If we have a look in New Orleans, the old red bricks are usually found everywhere. Of course, if you don't come from New Orleans, like myself and many here, then they may not be easily accessible, because nowadays fewer and fewer buildings are made of brick, right? So you're going to have to find places, old towns, villages, or maybe you have no choice but to import it. But I'm going to take the premise that you can access or you have access to these types of bricks. So let's talk about how to make it. Alright, so what you need to do, of course, is to crush up these bricks. Alright, so crushing and pulverizing the bricks yourself may actually give you the advantage, because you can focus all of your intent while you're doing so, you know, put in the protective thoughts, etc. And if you do decide to buy your bricks already crushed from some magical supply store, etc., then of course you can divide it into portions and then put in your own intent of protection as well over it with your outstretched palm. Now, of course, the goal is to have dust at the end of the process. So if you have located bricks and you've crushed them into pieces, you're going to have to keep grinding away until you've pulverized them into a dust. Okay, now, like I mentioned before, a good way is to pulverize it with a hammer, although this does make quite a mess. But initially, to break the bricks into smaller pieces, you would hammer away at it. And this doesn't mean you have to really slam the bricks hard, just a few taps, many times over several minutes until pieces start to crumble. Then you can put these pieces into a pestle and mortar and start grinding these pieces away, or chipping away at it until eventually it becomes dust. Now, this is a task that naturally needs to begin outside, so you should find a hard surface to place your brick on. Usually this is a sidewalk or some other concrete surface. If it's on the ground, then you're just going to be driving the brick into the mud, and it's gonna or sand or whatever you have, and it's just going to make your work that much harder. And then it's going to mix with the ground, so you don't really want that. So you need to find a hard surface to place your brick on, and then you may also want to wear some protective goggles, because sometimes while you're chipping away, fragments may shoot up. You don't want this hitting your eyes or doing any damage to yourself. Okay, so get a pair of goggles and make sure no animals or family members are around while you're doing this. Alternatively, you could decide to put a brick in a white pillow sack that has been washed with water steeped with rue, and you allow this to dry in the sun. Okay, now when dry, you anoint the pillowcase with cast off evil conjure oil if you have it. If not, then skip the step, because this step is purely optional. So if you decide to use the pillowcase, you place the brick inside the pillowcase and place that on the concrete surface. Then take the hammer and give it a good couple of whacks, but don't go overboard with it. Just chip away at it until you feel the the bricks start to crumble into pieces, and keep hammering away until the smaller and smaller pieces. And once you have crushed your bricks sufficiently, then you can bring the pieces inside, or you can stay outside, put it in the pestle, and then start grinding away, okay, until it becomes a fine powder. Now when you've done this, put the dust in a jar or a bag until you're ready to use it. And that's it. You have created the red brick dust. And that brings us to the end of this video for this week. If you enjoyed that, then please click the like button. I'd appreciate that. Also, feel free to share and pass along the video to your friends, or on your page, or wherever you'd like to feature it. That also would be appreciated. Okay, so please have a great week ahead, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. Cheers.